Imagine walking up to a building in your own state. You're the Attorney General. You're accompanied by state health inspectors. Your job is to enforce basic health codes because inside this building, human beings are reportedly being fed rotten food with worms in it. There's an active breakout of tuberculosis. But when you reach the door, a security guard stops you. They tell you that your laws don't apply here. Your badge means nothing here. They lock the doors in your face. This isn't a sci fi dystopia. This happened this week in Newark, New Jersey, at a facility called Delaney Hall. The entity that locked the gates against the state of New Jersey? The GEO Group, a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded for profit corporation. Today, we need to unpack what is actually happening behind those walls. Because what started on May 22nd as a desperate hunger and labor strike by 300 civil detainees inside Delaney Hall has exposed a terrifying mutation in American governance. A shadow state where private entities use federal cash to buy immunity from local law, exploit modern slave labor, and physically crush anyone who stands outside the gates to bear witness. Welcome to profiting off the pipeline, modern enslavement, and corporate sovereign immunity. Before we look at the blood on the asphalt outside Delaney Hall, we have to look at the ink on the contract. Who exactly is GEO Group? They aren't a law enforcement agency. They are a real estate and logistics company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Their product isn't safety. Their product is human occupancy. And business is booming. Just last month, GEO Group CEO boasted on an earnings call that 2025 was the most successful period for new business wins in their history. In 2025 alone, they raked in $2.6 billion in revenue. How? By securing a massive $1 billion, a 15-year federal contract with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to operate massive processing facilities just like Delaney Hall. But a corporation doesn't pull off $1 billion heist alone. They operate via a toxic systemic revolving door. Here's the blueprint of the pipeline, okay? The executive revolving door, the newly appointed acting director of ICE, David Venturella, is a former executive vice president of the GEO Group. The regulator and the contractor are corporate siblings. Then there's the political pay to play. To protect this arrangement, GEO Group dumped $2 million into MAGA Inc., a massive super PAC driving the current administration's mass deportation agenda. Then comes the tech enablers. This system runs on digital infrastructure. Amazon Web Services, AWS, hosts the cloud architecture that powers ICE tracking databases, data scraping contracts, and private facility communications. This is the modern for-profit prison pipeline. Taxpayer money is converted into political donations, which buy aggressive deportation policies, which fill private beds, which generate historic corporate dividends. Human beings are simply the raw material feeding the machine. So let's talk about the business model inside the walls of Delaney Hall for a minute. For-profit prisons rely on a simple corporate metric: lower overhead equals higher profit margin. And the easiest way to cut overhead is to strip the people inside of their basic humanity. On May 22nd, 2026, the detainees said enough. 300 people launched a coordinated hunger and labor strike. They smuggled out open letters to the public describing conditions that the U.S. representatives who visited the site openly called torture. Let's unpack how GEO Group maintains its bottom line. First, the commissary loophole. Detainees report being served rotten, spoiled, worm-infested food. Portions are intentionally kept so small that human beings are forced to buy basic sustenance from the facility's commissary, run by a private equity-backed firm like the Keefe Group. A pair of basic shoes costs $24, and a simple blanket costs $8. Second, the Voluntary Work Program. This is the core engine of GEO Group's profit because these individuals are civil detainees, meaning they are awaiting immigration hearings, not convicted of any crime. GEO Group cannot legally force them to work, so they created a voluntary program where detainees cook the meals, clean the toilets, scrub the floors, and shovel the snow. And how much does GEO Group pay them? Apparently $1 to $2 a day. $4 if you land the highly competitive kitchen shift, supposedly. If GEO Group had to hire outside unionized workers at New Jersey's minimum wage to run a 1,000-bed facility, their stock price would crater overnight. The profit margin of Delaney Hall depends entirely on coercing captive human beings into doing illegal labor for pennies, and according to their own handbook, encouraging a work stoppage is a high offense met with solitary confinement or disciplinary transfer. So, when those letters hit the internet, the community responded. Members of Movimiento Cosecha, Labor Eyes on Ice, and local Teamsters organized massive solidarity rallies outside the Newark facility. The corporate response to that was brutal. Riot squads, masked ICE agents, and local police deployed tear gas and pepper spray and flash grenades against peaceful protesters, alongside using the cavalry and horses to stampede and tromp on them. Um, against peaceful protesters who were trying to block transport vans. Inside, GEO Group staff retaliated immediately, beating strike organizers, pepper spraying common areas, and shifting key voices to isolated facilities like the Elizabeth Detention Center to break the collective line. But then the law tried to step in. New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill and Attorney General Jennifer Davenport sent state health inspectors to investigate after a detainee was rushed to University Hospital with an active case of tuberculosis. GEO Group barred the doors. They allowed inspectors into the kitchen for 90 minutes, then locked them out of the residential blocks, the medical wing, and the ventilation units. Think about the sheer audacity of that. New Jersey has now filed an 18-page emergency lawsuit against GEO Group, and the state's argument is clear. A federal contract does not grant a private corporation sovereign immunity to run an extra-constitutional colony on New Jersey soil. And they actually were, today, within the last couple of hours, seen using their security to assault peaceful protesters again this Friday, June 5th. The reality is heavy. But the Delaney Hall strikers have actually given us the exact blueprint for how to break the pipeline. They showed us where the machine is vulnerable. So if you want to undo the system, you don't beg the corporation for better conditions. You target the infrastructure that keeps them alive. We need to amplify the labor strikes. The detainees hit GEO Group exactly where it hurts, their bottom line. When they stop working, the facility paralyzed. We must support the legal framework defending detainees' right to refuse exploitative labor. Then we need to force the local divestment, target the institutional capital. Banks, universities, and state pension funds hold millions in GEO Group and core civic stock. Public exposure and aggressive divestment campaigns strip these companies of the capital that they need to build new cages. We need to hit them where it counts. Then we need to target their corporate partners. We have to expand the boundary of who we hold accountable. GEO Group cannot run mass surveillance or logistics without Amazon Web Services. Tech workers and consumers have massive leverage to demand these tech giants drop their logistic contracts with ICE and private prison firms. Then there's the aggressive independent media. The only way GEO Group operates is in total darkness. They thrive when the public looks away. Independent storytelling, community watch groups like Eyes on Ice, and podcasts like this one are the flashlights, the literal beacon in the dark, shining the light on what is happening here. So those are the people you need to elevate. And I do want to kind of sidebar for just a second here to talk about the fact that today, and you can go check out Aaron Parnas's most recent post, where he talks about how, I believe it was whitehouse.gov, put down a statement today about leftist influencers. I will check that real quickly. And what that actually could mean here. So, yes, leftist influencers. The claim is that the White House is responding to social media rumors, and basically they are trying to discredit different reporters for being quote unquote leftist influencers, and trying to discredit them and basically decredential them to try to make people doubt their authenticity of their reporting. And so they're going to be listing who they feel is a leftist influencer. And they have this category called media offenders. And again, you can look this up on whitehouse.gov. It's under media bias publication or media offenders, or just Google leftist influencers and whitehouse.gov, and you will find it. So far, it appears that there are 2 reporters who have been listed that I can see. 3, excuse me. There are 3, and they're categorizing it as left wing, quote unquote, left wing lunacy. It's just, this is absurd, but that is what is happening, and that is what is on whitehouse.gov. Now, let me pivot back to where I was at. The strikers inside Delaney Hall signed their 4th open letter with 3 simple words: "We demand freedom." They are risking their safety, their health, and facing solitary confinement to expose this machine. The least we can do from the outside is ensure their voices are heard loud enough to shake the boardroom walls. Thanks for listening. As always, keep your eyes open, stay loud, and remember, the mind is the most important story that we'll ever tell. I'll see you next time on The Mind Assignment.